Imagine a day unlike any other, a day when the sun will be brought low, when the mountains will crumble into dust, when the earth will shake with a force beyond comprehension. A day when every soul, young and old, rich and poor, leader and follower, will stand in complete silence, waiting for their final judgment. No excuses will be accepted, no lies will be believed, and no power will come to anyone's aid. This is the day of judgment, the moment when the truth will no longer be hidden and the reality of every deed will be exposed. On that day, the prophets, the very men who walked among us, who called us toward righteousness, who endured mockery and rejection, will stand as honored witnesses. Their words, once dismissed by so many, will now shake the souls of those who ignored them. They will testify before the Almighty, confirming that the message was delivered, that the truth was spoken, that every warning was given, and those who rejected them will have nothing left to say, only the unbearable weight of regret. What will you feel in that moment? Will your heart be filled with peace, or will it tremble with fear? The answer lies in the choices you make today. That day will be unlike anything the world has ever seen. It will not be a moment of ordinary reckoning, but a day when reality itself is shattered, when the fabric of existence bends under the weight of divine command. The skies will not remain as they are, blue and endless, but will rip apart as though torn by unseen hands. The sun will dim, the stars will fall, and the very air will feel heavy with the certainty of judgment. The earth, once firm and unmoving, will convulse like a creature in agony. Mountains, which have stood for centuries as symbols of strength and permanence, will disintegrate into dust and scatter with the wind. Oceans will surge and boil, their waves rising in chaos, as if the very elements of nature themselves tremble before what is to come. On that day, no one will have the luxury of distraction. There will be no turning away from the reality. This is not a day of negotiation. No wealth can be spent to buy safety. No influence can be wielded to alter one's fate. The powerful will find no thrones beneath them, no armies to defend them, no subjects to praise them. The poor will not be ignored or cast aside, for on this day there is no rich and no poor, only souls standing equal before the one who created them. The masks of this world will fall away, and all that will remain is truth, stark and undeniable. It is in this moment that the prophets will stand, the men who walked the earth in patience, who endured rejection, persecution, and hardship, who called to the truth when no one wanted to listen. These men will now stand as witnesses. They will not need to speak at length, for their presence alone will be enough to shake the souls who denied them. The eyes of those who ignored their words, who called them liars, who mocked their warnings, will now widen in horror. The weight of what they refuse to believe will crash down upon them, and they will realize, far too late, that every message, every warning, every call to righteousness was true. The sight of the prophets standing on that day will be unlike anything the world has ever known. Their dignity will be unshaken, their mission fulfilled. They will not gloat, they will not scorn, but neither will they plead for those who turned away. The time for mercy will have passed, and now only justice remains. Some among the crowd will look at them with longing, wishing they had listened, wishing they had followed, but regret will serve no purpose now. Others will avert their eyes, unable to face the reality of their choices. Their hearts will pound with fear, their throats dry with words unspoken, for now speech has no power. For those who followed, who endured trials for the sake of truth, who held firm when the world pulled them in every direction, this will be a moment of vindication. Their hearts will be at peace, their souls at rest, for they will know that what comes next is a reward beyond imagining. They will see the prophets and feel nothing but joy, for they followed their example, and now they stand with them. But for those who denied, who laughed at the truth, who chose comfort over righteousness, there will be no comfort now. The realization of their mistake will crush them with a force greater than any physical pain. They will remember every ignored warning, every dismissed truth, and they will know with unshakable certainty that there is no return. The prophets will bear witness, and their presence alone will shake the very souls of those who refuse to believe. The prophets were sent as guides, messengers, chosen by the Almighty to lead humanity toward truth and righteousness. They walked among people, spoke their language, ate their food, and lived as examples of virtue. They were not celestial beings, distant from human struggles, but men who felt hunger, thirst, sorrow, and pain. Yet, despite their human nature, they carried a mission that was beyond human comprehension. A responsibility to deliver the truth, no matter the cost. They stood before kings and commoners alike, calling them toward the light, urging them to abandon falsehood, to leave behind the illusions of power and wealth, and to prepare for the eternal reality that awaited them. Some listened and followed, but many turned away, blinded by arrogance and desire. The prophets faced rejection, humiliation, and even violence. They were mocked as madmen, accused of being sore. On the day of judgment, these prophets will stand as witnesses. Their voices, once ignored by so many, will now carry a weight that no one can deny. Their mission, once ridiculed, will now be seen as the ultimate truth. They will testify before the Almighty, confirming that they delivered the message entrusted to them. They will recount their struggles, the nights they spent in prayer for their people, the tears they shed over those who refused to listen, and the countless efforts they made to guide humanity toward salvation. The people who denied them, those who mocked them and turned away from their words, will stand frozen in fear. They will remember the warnings, the sermons, the calls to righteousness that they dismissed so easily in the past. The prophets, who once walked humbly among them, will now be elevated in honor. Their words will be undeniable, their presence overwhelming. Those who oppose them in life will now have no argument left to make. Their excuses will fall silent, their arrogance shattered, and their souls will be filled with the weight of regret. The righteous, those who believed and followed, will look upon the prophets with reverence and gratitude. They will feel peace in their hearts, knowing they stood by these men when the world turned against them. They will see the honor bestowed upon them and know that they made the right choice, even when it was difficult. They will recognize that their patience, their faith, and their struggles were not in vain. They will stand among those whom the prophets will acknowledge as true followers, and their souls will be filled with joy. The prophets will be asked about the response they received from their people, and they will speak the truth. They will describe the defiance, the stubbornness, the arrogance of those who rejected the message. They will speak of those who ridiculed them, those who claimed to be too powerful, too intelligent, or too wealthy to believe. And as their words fill the air, those who denied them will feel their hearts tighten with unbearable fear. They will wish to escape, to disappear, to undo the choices they made, but there will be no escape. The prophets will not plead for them, for their time for repentance had long passed. In this moment, the reality of judgment will become clear to all. The messengers who once walked unnoticed in the streets, who once faced scorn and rejection, will now stand in dignity, bearing witness to the truth they always carried. Their presence alone will be enough to shake the souls of those who turned away on the day of judgment. There will be no place to hide. Every soul, from the first to the last, will stand before the Almighty in absolute submission. No power, no wealth, and no status will grant anyone an escape from what is to come. The kings who once ruled with arrogance will stand shoulder to shoulder with the peasants they once oppressed. The rich will find no comfort in their wealth, and the poor will not suffer under their burdens any longer. Every soul will be equal in that moment, awaiting the final decree that will determine their eternal fate. The weight of accountability will be unbearable for many. Every action, no matter how small, will be presented before them. Nothing will be forgotten. The deeds that were done in secret, the words that were whispered in the dark, even the intentions that never turned into actions. Everything will be revealed with perfect clarity. There will be no distortions, no misunderstandings, no errors. The record of a person's life will be laid out in front of them with absolute precision, leaving no room for denial or excuses. The guilty will feel the weight of their choices pressing down on them like an unmovable mountain. They will wish they could erase what is written, but the ink will be dry and the pages will not turn back. This is the moment when the truth will become undeniable. The world as people once knew it, with its distractions, illusions, and deceptions, will be gone. There will be no distractions to turn to, no entertainment to drown out reality, no temporary comforts to numb the fear that grips the heart. The truth will be sharper than any sword, cutting through the falsehoods that people used to justify their wrongdoings. The arrogance that once filled the hearts of tyrants will dissolve into nothingness, and the pride of those who defied their Creator will turn into despair. They will finally understand that their power was an illusion, that their rebellion was foolish, and that their excuses were meaningless. Some will hold their record of deeds in their right hands, their hearts swelling with relief and gratitude. They will see the reward promised to them and will know that every hardship they endured for the sake of righteousness was worth it. They will recognize the mercy that has been granted to them, and they will rejoice in the knowledge that they are among those who are saved. They will remember the moments in their lives when they resisted temptation, when they chose patience over anger, when they helped others without seeking recognition. These actions, small as they may have seemed in the world, will now shine brighter than the stars. They will feel no regret, only the overwhelming joy of knowing that their journey has led them to salvation. But others will hold their record of deeds in their left hands and terror will consume them. They will see the reality of their choices laid bare before them. The sins they committed, the opportunities they wasted, the warnings they ignored, all of it will be there, undeniable and irreversible. They will beg for another chance. They will plead to return to the world, to correct their mistakes, to live a life of obedience and righteousness. But the time for second chances will be long gone. Their pleas will echo into the void, unanswered, because they had already been given every opportunity they needed. They had been warned, they had been guided, they had been shown the way. The sight of the prophets, standing in dignity, their mission fulfilled, will only deepen the regret of those who rejected them. These were the men who spent their lives calling humanity toward the truth, enduring mockery and rejection with patience and perseverance. Now, as they stand as honored witnesses, those who denied them will feel the full weight of their defiance. They will look upon the prophets with longing, wishing they had followed them, wishing they had listened when they had the chance. But wishing will not change their fate. The decision has already been made. And now, all that remains is judgment. The book of deeds will be placed before every soul, an unaltered record of every thought, word, and action committed throughout their life. No detail will be missing, no moment forgotten, no injustice left unresolved. It will be an undeniable testimony, a perfect account that neither exaggerates nor diminishes. Every page will reflect the reality of one's existence, the moments of kindness and cruelty, the choices of faith and disbelief, the times one chose truth over falsehood or vice versa. It will be the most honest mirror ever held up to a person's soul, leaving no space for denial or argument. For some, their hearts will race with anticipation, their hands will tremble as they await the outcome of their lifelong journey. They will see their book delivered to them in their right hand, and in that instant, a wave of relief will flood over them. They will read about the nights they spent in worship, the moments they resisted temptation, the small kindnesses they offered to others without expecting anything in return. They will see the moments of difficulty when they held firm in their faith, despite the world pushing against them, and they will realize that none of it was forgotten. The joy they feel will be unlike any feeling they have ever experienced, for they will know that they have been granted eternal peace. Others, however, will not share this relief. The moment their book is presented to them in their left hand, their breath will catch in their throat. Their eyes will widen with dread as they glance at the pages, knowing what awaits them. The sins they thought were buried, the deeds they assumed were forgotten, the transgressions they justified to themselves, all will be there, exposed in undeniable clarity. They will see their own hands writing the lies they once told, their own lips forming the words of deceit, their own feet walking toward places of wrongdoing. The reality of their own choices will crush them with a weight heavier than any mountain. They will try to deny it, to protest that it was not truly them, that they were misunderstood, that they had good intentions, but their own book will testify against them, revealing not just their actions but their thoughts, their motivations, their hidden intentions. The pages will not lie and the evidence will be overwhelming. Some will cry out in desperation, wishing to erase what has been written. Others will break down in regret, wishing they could go back and live differently, wishing they had been more mindful, wishing they had listened to the countless warnings they dismissed. The shock of this moment will be indescribable. In life, people lived as if they were not being watched, as if their deeds had no consequences beyond the present moment. Many assumed they could manipulate, deceive, and conceal their actions from others, forgetting that the ultimate witness was always present. Now, standing before the Almighty, with their own record in their hands, they will realize the full truth. Every whispered insult, every betrayal, every injustice they inflicted on others, no matter how small, will be present in their book. Likewise, every chance they had to repent, to change, to seek forgiveness will also be there, showing how many opportunities they ignored. Some will attempt to distance themselves from their own record, refusing to accept responsibility. They will blame others, their friends, their leaders, their families, claiming they were misled, pressured, or deceived. But their book will show their own choices, their own free will, and their own ability to turn away from wrongdoing. No external force will be responsible for their fate. Their own actions have sealed it. The weight of what is written will be unbearable for those who neglected their purpose in life. Some will wish to be turned into dust, to disappear entirely rather than face the consequences of what they now know. But there will be no escape. The book is final, the truth is undeniable, and the judgment is near. Regret will hang in the air like an unshakable burden, pressing down on those who ignored the truth when it was right in front of them. The weight of lost opportunities, of wasted time, of neglected warnings will settle upon them with an intensity they have never known. They will look back on their lives, remembering every moment they turned away from righteousness, every chance they had to do good but chose otherwise. The realization will strike them with a force more devastating than any physical pain, for they will finally understand that the time for change has ended and there is no going back. They will remember the times they laughed at the truth when they mocked those who warned them, dismissing their words as foolishness. They will recall the moments when their hearts whispered that they should turn toward righteousness, yet they silenced that voice with distractions and indulgence. They will think of the nights they spent in heedlessness, the wealth they accumulated without thought of accountability, the power they misused for their own gain. All of these memories will flood back, not as distant recollections, but as undeniable evidence of their choices. They will wish to rewrite their stories, to erase their mistakes, to undo the damage they caused. But the ink has already dried, and the pages of their lives cannot be rewritten. Some will cry out in desperation, begging for another chance. They will plead, promising that if they could return to the world, they would live differently. They would pray more, they would be kinder, they would resist their temptations, they would follow the guidance they once rejected. They will swear that they have learned their lesson, that they understand now what they did not before. But these cries will go unanswered, for the time for action was in the life they once lived, and that time has now passed. The regret will not only be for their own sins, but also for the people they misled. Leaders who use their influence for corruption will see the faces of those who followed them into destruction. Friends who encouraged one another towards sin will turn against each other, blaming one another for their downfall. Parents who neglected to teach their children about righteousness will feel the pain of knowing that they led their loved ones astray. Teachers who spread falsehoods, rulers who oppressed, and those who promoted wrongdoing in society will realize the true cost of their actions. They will not only bear their own burden, but also the weight of those they misguided. The sight of those who followed the right path will be another source of unbearable pain. They will see those they once looked down upon, those they mocked for their righteousness, now standing in peace and joy. They will remember how they laughed at their prayers, how they ridiculed their faith, how they dismissed their warnings as unnecessary fear. They will watch as these same people walk toward eternal bliss, and the contrast between their fates will be a torment greater than anything they have ever known. They will wish to trade places, but such a trade will be impossible. Some will try to shift the blame, arguing that they were victims of circumstance, that they were influenced by their surroundings, that they only followed what others did, but the reality of personal responsibility will be undeniable. They had the chance to make their own choices, to seek the truth, to change their ways. No one forced them to turn away. They did so of their own will. Their excuses will dissolve into nothingness, leaving them alone with the consequences of their actions. The pain of regret will not come from ignorance, but from full awareness. They will not be confused about what is happening or why they are facing judgment. They will understand completely that they had every opportunity to choose differently. They will recognize the signs they ignored, the guidance they dismissed, and the warnings they laughed at. They will know with absolute certainty that they were not wronged, that no injustice has been done to them. Their suffering will come from within, from the realization that they had control over their destiny and they chose to turn away. That knowledge will haunt them, a torment far greater than any external punishment could ever be. The final separation will be unlike anything the world has ever witnessed. It will be the moment when every soul will be assigned its eternal place, where the destinies of the righteous and the wicked will be sealed forever. The temporary nature of the world will have long since faded away, and the illusions of status, wealth, and power will hold no meaning. There will be no more opportunities to change one's fate, no more appeals, no more negotiations. The judgment will be final, absolute, and irreversible. Those who live their lives in righteousness, who struggle to stay true despite the temptations and hardships of the world, will see the doors of paradise open before them. The beauty of what awaits them will be beyond their imagination. They will be welcomed with words of peace, told that they will never again feel sorrow, fear, or pain. The burdens they carried in the world, the suffering they endured, the trials they faced for the sake of truth, all of it will be repaid with an eternal reward. Their hearts will be filled with relief and gratitude, knowing that every sacrifice was worth it. They will walk among gardens more beautiful than anything they have ever seen, where rivers of pure water, milk, and honey flow endlessly. The air will carry a fragrance sweeter than anything in the world they left behind. There will be no exhaustion, no grief, no regret. Only joy that continues to grow. They will be reunited with those they loved, those who also walked the path of righteousness. They will sit together, speaking of the trials they faced and how, by the mercy of their Creator, they have now been granted eternal peace. They will wear garments of light, reclining on thrones of comfort, knowing that they will never again face sadness or loss. Their souls will be in complete tranquility, for they will know with certainty that this happiness will never end. But for those who turned away, those who lived as if they would never be held accountable, the reality will be far different. The gates of punishment will be opened before them. revealing a fate more terrifying than they ever imagined. The same people who once mocked the idea of judgment, who laughed at the warnings given to them, will now stand in complete horror as they realize that the warnings were true. They will try to turn away, but there will be nowhere to go. They will beg for another chance. But the time for mercy will have passed. The torment will begin not just with physical suffering, but with the unbearable weight of regret. They will see what they lost, what they could have had, if only they had chosen differently. The sight of paradise, of those who are rejoicing in their eternal reward, will be a greater pain than any external punishment. They will know that they had the same opportunities, the same guidance, the same chances to change, but they ignored them all. They will cry out asking to be sent back just for a moment so they can make amends, but their cries will go unanswered. They will be led toward their fate, surrounded by the very people they once followed in wrongdoing, the leaders they admired, the influences they imitated, the corrupt figures they defended. All of them will be present. But there will be no loyalty between them now. They will turn against each other, blaming one another for their downfall. But blame will not change what has already been decided. The bond they once had in sin will shatter, and they will realize that they are completely alone in their suffering. The punishment they will face will not be temporary. It will not have an end, no matter how much they plead. The very thought of eternity, of never escaping their torment, will break them before the punishment even begins. They will beg for destruction, wishing that they could simply cease to exist. But even that will be denied to them. They will be left with nothing but despair, trapped in the consequences of their own choices. The final separation will be complete. The righteous will never again see suffering, and the wicked will never again see hope. There will be no second chances, no last-minute salvation. The judgment will be final, and every soul will remain where it has been destined to be for all eternity. The day of judgment will be the ultimate reckoning, a moment when every soul will face the reality of its existence. There will be no deception, no second chances, no escape from what has already been written. The prophets will stand as witnesses, their mission fulfilled, their warnings proven true. The righteous will rejoice, their patience and sacrifices rewarded beyond measure. The wicked will despair, their arrogance shattered, their regret heavier than any burden they have ever known. Paradise and punishment will stand before humanity as final destinations, and every soul will walk toward the fate it has earned. Those who lived with sincerity, who embraced the truth despite hardships, who remain steadfast in righteousness, will enter a place where sorrow will never touch them again. But those who ignored the warnings, who indulged in arrogance and disbelief, will face a fate from which there is no return. This moment is coming, whether we acknowledge it or not. The question is not if it will happen, but whether we will be ready when it does. The choices we make today will determine the eternity we face tomorrow. So ask yourself, when that day arrives, will you stand among those who are saved or among those who are lost forever?